Welcome to the Red Bull Theater Podcast, where guests discuss all things classical theater with your host, Nathan Winkelstein.
Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. This evening's conversation will be focused on the titular character from Shakespeare's masterpiece, The Tragedy of King Lear, with special emphasis on the scene on the heath in Act 3, Scene 2. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest tonight, who played this role in a 2007 co-production between the Classical Theater of Harlem and the Folger Shakespeare Theater. He is an Emmy, Grammy, and Tony winner, and most importantly, a Red Bull Theater Matador Award recipient. He has performed in numerous shows throughout New York, including Red Bull's own Witch of Edmonton, and is one of New York's most beloved performers. He is, of course, the glamorous Broadway deity, André DeShields. Hi, André. How are you?
Good evening. Can we turn the music down?
I think we should turn the music down if that's...
Yeah.
I think that's on your end, André.
It is?
I think so. I think it came on with you. Sounds great.
I thought you were playing my signature song from The Wiz.
It's working perfectly if that is what's going on. But, okay. I think it may have stopped. Perfect.
Yeah, it was on my end.
No, that's see, you're already unique. You are now the only guest who's come on with his own entrance music. So we are, and probably the one who most deserves to. So it makes the most sense. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, André. It's really a thrill to have you.
It is my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me to do this on February 1st, the inception of Black History Month.
Yes.
I couldn't think of a more appropriate invitation for me to accept, and I've even dressed for the occasion. There we go.
There it is.
Black Lives Matter.
Black lives do matter. Thank you, André. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we may touch on some of that in this conversation.
Oh yes, we must. It's
yes.
necessary. Mm-hmm.
So I know that you have prepared a little bit of this heath, so that of the scene from the heath, so that the audience can know the kind of touch point that we are starting off from for this conversation. So for all of you watching, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on this moment for those of you who aren't super familiar with Lear, and then I will get out of the way and allow André to read the scene. So for a little context, this scene finds Lear out on the heath in a storm with none but his fool by his side. Last we saw him, two of his daughters, Regan and Goneril, exerted their will and insisted he release his followers, or else he could not remain within their homes. Lear left in rage, and his hangers-on quickly fled, leaving him alone, except for his faithful fool, without followers or shelter. As the reality of his powerlessness descends upon him for the first time since his abdication, he rails at the elements amidst a mighty storm.
Blow winds and crack your cheeks. Rage, blow. You cataracts and hurricanes, spout till you have drenched our steeples, drowned the cots. You sulphurous and thought-executing fires, vaunt the couriers to oak-cleaving thunderbolts, singe my white head. And thou, O shaking thunder, smite flat the thick rotundity o' the world, crack nature's molds, all Germans spill at once, that make ingrateful man. Rumble thy belly full, spit fire, spout rain, nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters. I tax not you, you elements, with unkindness. I never gave you kingdom, called you children. You owe me no subscription. Then let fall your horrible pleasure. Here I stand, your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. But yet I call you servile ministers that have with 2 pernicious daughters joined your high engendered battles gainst a head so old and white as this. Oh, oh, 'tis foul. No, I will be the pattern of all patience. I will say nothing. Let the gods that keep this dreadful parlor o'er our heads find out their enemies now. Tremble, thou wretch, that hast within thee undivulged crimes, unwhipped of justice. Hide thee, thou bloody hand, thou perjured and thou simular man of virtue, that art incestuous, caitiff, to pieces shake, that under covert and convenient seeming has practice on man's life. Close pent-up guilts, rive your concealing countenance, and cry these dreadful summoners grace. I am a man more sinned against than sinning. My wits turn. The art of our necessities is strange, that can make vile things precious. Come.
Thank you, Andre. I always feel like whenever all of my guests are extraordinary, and you are no different in what you can do with these speeches in this format, and it always feels like it deserves a huge crowd's round of applause, and I always feel so sad having to give it to myself, but it's fully deserved.
As long as you approve, I'm okay.
I don't think you're in any need of my approval, but my goodness, do you have it. That was truly extraordinary, Andre, and I thank you for, I can't believe that after hearing that it's been, 14 years since you've done this?
Okay, yeah. With the Classical Theater of Harlem.
Yes.
And I was under the direction of the founding producing artistic director, Alfred Preiser. We started out in 2006, and we made such a delicious noise that we were invited to the Folger Library to continue our performance in their theater. It was such an exciting and heart-opening, mind-opening, spirit-opening experience for me. I just celebrated my 60th year on the earth plane, and I thought then, this experience is so significant and yet so unfinished that in 10 years, I'd like to try this again. Well, it's 15 years. So now I've been on the earth plane for 75 years. And to have this, just this moment, to do that speech on the heath really reverberates for me. And not only because, as I said earlier, not only because that this is the first day of Black History Month. Now, how do I connect that to King Lear? So much of what we have experienced since the pandemic reminds me of when Lear was written, during the reign of King James I, during the bubonic plague, during a time when a virus crossed species. In the case of the bubonic plague, it was from rats to humans. Now in 2021, we suspect it's from bats to humans. There's a lovely internal rhyme there. But it caused me to think, how many overlays can we discover in this one monologue between then and now? And this is what I discovered and continue to discover. We are in a period, I'm going to have to coin some phrases here.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. We're in a period of cult authoritarianism. Okay? We're dealing with what I affectionately refer to as the orange alien who recently occupied the people's house. Now, charismatic.
Yes.
King Lear, charismatic. And from the 21st century point of view, is the leader of a cult. The cult of his family and the cult of his sycophants, which is the parallel that I am attempting to draw between what we are dealing with now in the current body politic and what Lear was dealing with in the body politic of his time. Now, both situations are built on the mindset of the psychology of totalism. I was about to say
Totalitarianism. No.
No.
We know what we're talking about.
No.
The guests know.
Totalitarianism.
Got it.
That's what I was about to say.
There we go.
Totalitarianism. But it's more to the point to say totalism, I think.
And easier. So let's go with totalism.
Well, and easier. But because it has to do with the internal architecture of the individual, whereas totalitarianism has much more to do with the exterior architecture of a government.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So, and we've heard people, the QAnon cult, we've heard them refer to Donald J. Trump as a gift from God,
right?
Because the Christians believe the Lord works in mysterious ways. Now, kings are the vicars of God on earth.
Right.
Kings are the agents of God. So I'm trying to put together all of these tenets of cult beliefs so that they transfer from then to now.
And sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting to me, and I think perhaps after we'll talk, because there are also obviously some differences between these two men, in that one I think is sympathetic, and the other I think is not.
Well, there are differences between the two men. I'm not trying to compare the two men. I'm trying to compare the two body politics. and
Right.
how they reverberate in society almost identically. I mean, we're talking about chauvinism. Now, who could be more chauvinist than King Lear?
Right.
We're talking about misogyny. Now, that word isn't mentioned in King Lear, but the way the women in King Lear are treated as if they were mere possessions of not only the king, the father, the archetype, but also they are future possessions of their husbands.
Right.
And notice that in the dividing of the crown, as it were, the king himself actually have to offer dowries to the would-be husbands of his daughters so that he can marry them off. This is a contract.
Right.
Another parallel I'd like to suggest between then and now is the shifting of the paradigm that we are currently going through. The pandemic is not here for no reason. We are not sheltering in place for no reason. We are not being asked to practice physical distancing for no reason. We haven't been brought low for no reason. We are experiencing a kind of collapse of nature, not for no reason. Many times we wish for a level playing field. Well, if nothing else, the pandemic has leveled this playing field. And what do I mean by that? Well, nobody knows anything and everybody knows nothing. How more level can a playing field be than that? And that is one of the purposes of King Lear when he comes in and says, I will now call the court together. I will now reveal to you what it is I plan to do here.
I find it, yeah. What you're saying is, I think I'm now following. I think I was misunderstanding before because please correct me if I'm wrong here. But what you're saying is not that Lear is the previous president of the United States is a manifestation of Lear, but that actually the body politic is a manifestation. That Lear is almost a manifestation of the body politic, of like his journey of being brought low, his journey of, because I was thinking about this speech as well, as you said, and something else that came out to me is how incredibly victimized he feels. How dare anybody be mean to me? I'm more like, it's how dare you be mean to me?
Exactly.
Which
exactly.
We hear a lot of that, the
right,
culture
exactly.
of victimhood.
So no, I'm glad we've clarified this. I'm not trying to compare the men.
Right.
I'm comparing the culture. I'm comparing I don't know if I can make it any more specific than the body politic.
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
causes nature to collapse. And because we're doing something from Shakespeare, it shouldn't be surprising to anyone that the collapse in nature is reflecting of the collapse in our psychological makeup.
Right. Yes, and this is a standard, as you said, to Shakespeare for the audience who our audience is extremely. They probably do know, but that there is right. Shakespeare, he does the same thing in Macbeth when
Yes.
Neither of us are in a theater. I think that's okay. He
Right,
says
that's
that
okay.
when Duncan is killed and there's a great storm
Right.
because the sort of what is right and proper in the world has been overturned, is that he's dealing with the same thing here, where almost the body politic and the world around Lear is representing the struggles and distortion of Lear himself.
Exactly. And insurrection.
Yes.
There's insurrection in the house of Lear.
by people empowered by Lear.
Exactly.
Right.
By people empowered by Lear. There is intergenerational strife. The term incestuous is used in King Lear, and I don't think it means simple sexuality among family members. It has to do with the breach of covenants between father and child, husband and wife, siblings, master and slave. There's all kind of breach of covenants happening here.
Do you think, like, gosh, the you are right that the metaphors just sort of keep on going.
They keep coming, yeah, because the three-pronged subject here is morality, immorality, amorality. And it all exists in that family.
And it is also interesting to me. I wonder what you think, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but when I read Lear, one of the things that really pops out to me is sort of this original sin, if you would, of abdication of responsibility. Is that like the original sin that begins everything at the top of the play is Lear wanting all of the power and fun, not all of the privilege of kingship, with none of the responsibility of kingship. He wants to be kept in his revenue, and this original sin of both disseminating his responsibility and playing favorites, like taking yes men over the people who speak truth to power, Cordelia and Kent. And do you think that I mean, I can easily draw parallels to today's situations.
Yeah.
But do you agree with that as sort of the first domino that falls in this sort of path of destruction and possible redemption that Lear goes on, and that the body politic along with Lear goes on?
Well, it certainly is the first symptom. But if we want to talk about initial sin, transgression, if you will, it is the idea that there is an individual or a group of individuals who are superior, who consider themselves superior to other individuals or groups of individuals. Now, once Lear decides to divide his kingdom, he is letting us know that he is superior to everyone else in his court. And he continues to deliver that message by how he demands oaths of love from his daughters. And those who pretend, who prevaricate, are successful in becoming, in material ways, more superior than they theretofore had been.
Right.
The one who is a truth teller, the truth teller, is now being considered inferior.
Right.
Right? Notice that the most superior of them all is a white male.
Well, yes.
Now, but I want to get back to something I suggested and I didn't finish the thought, and that is the current change in the paradigm, which is away from the control of the strong white male and is leaning toward a more nurturing, more feminine, if you will, more of the culture of the goddess than we have been used to.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, in terms of like the feminine in the kind of god of nature sense.
In the archetypal sense.
In the archetypal sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, look at the culture in Lear's world. He's a king, absolute authority, with 3 daughters.
Right.
And no queen.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Where's the mother in Lear?
Where
Right.
is the mother in Lear? And and I'm going to go out on a limb here. Not only where is the mother in Lear, but have there been 2 mothers?
Yeah.
I mean, someone obviously nurtured Goneril and Regan. And then someone else
yes.
nurtured Cordelia.
Yes. Yeah, it's fascinating. You're right. And actually, for the history, the supposed time of the history of Lear, it would actually make sense, too. So,
and this is the intergenerational strife that we are dealing with today. This is the hybrid family psychology dysfunction that we are dealing with today.
I think that the reason I always get a little bit anxious when we're able to draw such direct parallels to today is it is, of course, such an extremely sad play. It doesn't really, here's this guy writing during a plague, right, who takes a story, a pre-existing story of King Lear that is already pretty traumatic, and then chooses to make it even sadder, right, with Cordelia dying and the king dying, which was not true to the original story. And so what do you think was both Shakespeare's objective, but also as you read it today, are there messages of hope in this play, or is it a message of warning? In this body politic connection that you're making, what are we asking the audience to think about, right? Because I feel like that's essential to what we do as theater makers. What are we asking the audience to think about?
I believe we're asking the audience, in very contemporary terms, to man up, to woman up, to children up. Whatever your echelon is, raise the stakes. Yes, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of panic. But that is not how we should be reacting to what we perceive as a burden of sadness. The correct response to the burden of sadness is to introduce a mountain of hope. It's what Edgar does at the end of the play. There's a lot of sadness in the play, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, all of the people whom we love, with the exception of Edgar, are dead. And I'm sure Edgar, like Kent, for instance. Now, we presume that when Kent says he's going to join his master, that he's going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Because the master is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that Edgar would want to do something similar, but he certainly doesn't want to be in charge of what has become of that kingdom right then. But he bites the bullet and he puts the crown on, the crown of hope, because he is the only one who can overcome, if you will, the sadness of the moment. Now, this brings me back to the monologue on the heath. Lear is, in one sense, cursing the gods, in another sense, tempting them to punish him so that he can really become the victim that he perceives himself to be, when indeed he's the catalyst.
Right.
Now, but that is the dilemma of the modern world. If we believe that Shakespeare and his canon is the demarcation between the ancient world and the modern world, the scholars believe that Shakespeare, in his writings, invented human nature, or at least the way we understand it from a psychoanalytical point of view. Of course, there was human nature before that, but it was essentially a binary nature. You either hunted or you gathered.
Right.
But now, man, as Shakespeare says, with a bit of irony and sarcasm in Hamlet, the paragon of animals.
Right.
Yes, but he's not praising humanity.
No.
But he is commenting on the contradictions that we are, the complications that we are.
There's a famous essay I'm by a famous person whose name is escaping me. It's in Shapiro's book of Shakespeare in America. That I'm forgetting who it is, but I think it's a famous poet who said that Shakespeare created, at least from a language perspective, from an English language perspective, the universe that we still are all within. None of us have explored the universe of the human mind and of what this language can describe as far as Shakespeare was capable of doing. And of course, this was his great ability, was to go in
Exactly.
and find the person.
Not only have we not investigated it, but we have been shrinking from it generation after generation until we've come to a point in our current society that we can't even make a subject and a verb agree. Not
Right.
even the people who write for the New York Times. What happened to grammar? What happened to the power of language?
It all has to fit in a tweet size, Andre.
Yeah, well, but what I'm saying is the wound, the festering wound that needs to be healed in our society has more expressions than just systemic racism.
Yeah,
it has to do with the inability to make oneself understood or the inability to understand someone else.
I think you've put your finger. I mean, I'd like to believe it's why we're both in theater, is that the thing that this country feels like it's missing. I don't want to expound really, but is the inability to communicate.
Yeah,
we are not able to communicate. And in theater, we communicate. That's what we do.
That's why we do what we do.
Yep.
And we do it by telling stories. The power of storytelling, we know, can transform individual lives, can alter governments, can be the change in society that we so eagerly yearn for. Which is why, with the pandemic causing this moratorium, let me put it pleasantly, moratorium on Broadway, people are feeling even more sick than they actually are, because there's no temple to go to have your questions answered, to have your problems solved, to have your crises resolved, to have your burdens lifted, to have your yokes broken. That's what we do. That's why it's so important to recognize Lear when he's cursing the gods. Not only because he has no answers to his problems, no resolution to his crises, etc., but because at the end of the play, and this is what I think is one of the most beautiful bookends that I've experienced in theatrical literature, to begin by cursing the gods and to end by loving humanity, which is the journey that I believe Lear takes. Everyone wants to talk about his dementia. Everybody wants to talk about his descent into madness. Even he talks about it. He says several times in the play, please don't let me be mad. That's the worst thing that could happen to him. But he does become mad. And then he meets himself in the vision of Edgar, who is not mad. He's absolutely human. And that's the reflection, I believe, that Lear embraces and latches onto and holds dear to his heart until the very end of the play, when he should or could be cursing the gods.
Right.
But he's accepting of the frailty of humanity.
And it's as you describe it that way, it's interesting to me that this man who has had a life full of all of the things you're talking about, right? Autocratic power, betrayal of family, cult, cursing the gods, everything up, everything superior, all of that, that his madness in the play is sort of centered, if I don't think I'm misremembering, it's centered around nature and the woods and this man, this human, this very human person in poor Tom, and then is everyone says that he sort of comes out of his madness when he sees Cordelia, but I find it interesting that the daughter who is the most natural daughter, who is true and loving and it has a real human relationship with Lear, is the person he recognizes in his madness as human. He recognizes Cordelia's humanity as well, and that brings him... It's interesting to think of the madness, instead of it being a descent, it's like almost an evolutionary moment for him.
That's exactly what it is. It's an arc. It's a pendulum. It's a darkness he has to go through in order to appreciate the advent of the light, which is in the death of Cordelia. His madness dissolves. There's some kind of redemption there, and he can die in peace.
I like that a lot. I'm not sure that it's... Yeah. I think you also answered... in such a beautiful way. There was something I was going to ask, but I think you've answered it, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Which is, I think sometimes for people who are not professional actors or not performers, they can wonder how does all of the thinking you've done, right, about who this man is and how he represents today's society and all of that stuff actually goes into affecting the performance you put forward on stage. Like, why is it important? And I think you've just come very close to answering that, and that it sort of allows you to discover what makes the guy and the story tick. But do you consider this, I think I'm feeding you one here, but do you consider kind of this sort of work, when you look at a character, when you're provided a character on stage, do you consider this part of the work to be an essential aspect of the actor's process?
Yes. Yes, I do. I sometimes have these kinds of conversations with, particularly in 2020, because the pandemic interrupted so many commencement exercises. And I had the opportunity to deliver keynote addresses, charges to graduating classes, young people who did not have the opportunity to walk across the stage in their mortarboards and receive their diplomas. And they felt cheated of a rite of passage. And because education has always been my beacon, and because even to my peers, I try to teach that at some point in your career, your resume will become irrelevant. You must have a CV. You must have a curriculum vitae. You must have life experience. Now, your resume is a list of life experience of characters that you have created. But your curriculum vitae is the bank, is the source. That's where you have taken from yourself, pieces of your life experience, and invested it in the characters that you have created. So when it comes to the point that there's no call for the characters that you have created, there should be a call for the font from which the characters came.
I love what you're describing to me, and maybe some of our audience is familiar with this idea. Is it almost sounds like the actor version of the Golden Circle?
Yeah.
Yes, got it.
Now, okay. I taught, and I've taught in many different situations, but I teach a masterclass called the Golden Triangle because someone had already created the circle. But the Golden Triangle is the conversion of, the universe loves trinities. And the Golden Triangle is the conversion of the three essential components of human nature: mind, body, and spirit. And it is the actor's process to allow, not force. See, we've let go of the worth, the value of the term allow. And it is the actor's process to allow these three ingredients to converge. And when they converge, we have created the most precious gem with the most facets through which we can refract our light and become what Terence says. Ooh, I'm challenging myself. Can I remember the Latin? Homo sum, humani nihil ame, alienum puto. Terence, you know who Terence? Do you know? Do you have to explain who Terence is?
I might need the second name, Terence. So yes, you need to explain.
Probably Publius or something like that. But,
okay. Andre, I know all about Terence, but just for the audience, how about you explain?
Terence, check this out. Check this out, because here we are building walls across the Rio Grande River to keep out immigrants and all that. Terence was an African Roman. Now, the Roman Empire was vast.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it was North Africa, right? Terence was from Carthage. He was a slave to one of the Roman generals, but he was brilliant. He was what we would call an autodidact. And the general who was his master took him to Rome with him and freed him. And Terence was then able to write plays and poetry and that sort of thing. But he's most remembered by that quote, which translates as, I am man, I am mankind. Nothing human can be alien to me. And that's what I'm talking about when I describe the difference between one's resume and one's curriculum vitae. Anything that can be experienced on a human level must be in the toolkit of the actor. And in the 21st century, it is not sufficient to say that I am an actor. At the very least, you're an actor activist. It's what the times call for. You're an actor advocate. It's what the times call for. You're an actor griot. A griot is that individual who is responsible for keeping the history of the individual, the family, the nation, the tribe, the country, the continent, the world, oral history. And the griot has a protege, because the griot is not going to live forever, although the knowledge will. And we say when the griot dies, we lose a library. But that is what our responsibility as an actor. Why did the Greeks build theaters that could seat an entire nation state? 20,000 people, 40,000 people, because they believed that in the amphitheater, the gods would come down from Mount Olympus, walk among them, and do that litany I mentioned before: answer questions, resolve crises, lift burdens, etc. We're the best gods that we've got now. But we must hold our service, because that's what it is. It's not a job, it's not a career, it's a service. We must revere it and hold it sacrosanct, because there is no other balm. The theaters are shut.
Right.
People are desperate for communion.
I'm trying to think of. So you have, as an actor activist playing Lear, you have this platform that you're performing for people for, and at the end of Lear, your daughter's dead in your arms, you die. What is it that you Andre, let's say not in 2007, let's say you said you wanted to do it again in
Right.
2020, like, what is it that you hope that you also have a platform here now, of whatever size? What is it that you hope that an audience walks away from this, as you described, temple of connection and communication, and what do you hope that they walk away from your performance of Lear with?
There's a reason that Antonin Artaud's treatise on theater is called Le théâtre et son double, as opposed to La vie et sa double. We are pretending to live. There is a greater reality that discusses, embraces, and demystifies life in the theater than there is in our daily existence, because we are so concerned with getting through the dullness and the drudgery of the next 24 hours that we deny what is eternal about us. And it isn't our flesh. This is just an envelope for the spirit that animates us. But now, in order to make this as clear as I can, I have to quote another great playwright, Thornton Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
Our Town.
Yep.
I had an opportunity to play the role of the stage manager in Our Town. Now, crucify me, but the stage manager in Our Town is as challenging as Lear.
I don't think there's any crucifixion there. What a role. Yes.
Okay. Deep in Act 2, and this is after the denizens, the inhabitants of the town have all died, the fleshly envelopes that have been a temple for the spirit have turned to ashes, have turned to dust. But the spirit that animated that envelope is still around on the other side of that chasm. And this is what the stage manager says. Oh, Lord, I'm testing my memory. This is what the stage manager says. I guess if I can pull up Terence's Latin, I can pull this up. There are some things we all know, but we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know that something is eternal, and it ain't names, and it ain't houses, and it ain't earth, and and it ain't even the stars. Everybody knows in their bones that something is eternal. And that something has to do with human beings. All the greatest people that ever lived have been telling us that for 5,000 years. Yet you'd be surprised how often we lose sight of it. There is something way down deep that is eternal about every human being. And that is the indomitable, omnipotent. This is not from the play. Every human being was the end of the quote. Now I'm interpreting.
Quote closed. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scene.
Okay.
So now, but we're talking about the indomitable, the omnipotent, the omnipresent, the omniscient animator of the corpus, and that is the eternal spirit. That is the only force that can guarantee diversity, equity, inclusion. Because the eternal spirit has no race, no color, no declension, no conjugation. It's been here forever. It enters us when we come through that first portal of birth, and it forsakes us as we go through the final portal of death. And it lived in the stage manager, and it lived in King Lear, and it lived in the Black Africans who became slaves in the New World, and it lives even in the white nationalists who committed sedition, insurrection at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Our purpose is to decide how best to use that eternal spirit. And sometimes it lives so deep in some of us that our reality is broken. And we exist, we don't live, we exist in a world of delusion.
And I mean, it seemed to see if I'm following, I think is what you're saying is that, and that theater, this sort of distillation of what is most essential in life is sort of a theatrical experience.
Right.
Will, by definition, the greatest gift of theater then is that it perhaps brings that eternal spirit you're referring to closer to the surface for people to see and to remember and to
theater
learn.
Is the fire that burns through the delusions.
So I think on that, I could go all day, but I know that there are a few people who are anxious for some questions, and I feel like that's a really great place to put it.
Yeah, and I need a drink of water anyway.
Great. So let's go. We have one person on who gave us a question beforehand, who we brought on as video, who has another wonderful quote, I actually think, for us. If we could have Kate join us real quick to ask her question.
Kate.
That would be great. Hi, Kate. Thank you for joining.
Hi. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Andre D. Shields.
Oh my gosh, Kate.
You kind of touched on this so beautifully and so perfectly about Lear's madness dissolving into this advent of light and humanity. Anthony Sher played Willie Loman and King Lear for the Royal Shakespeare Company. And he's quoted as saying that both plays affect audiences emotionally more than most because they're both going through journeys. But Willie learns nothing from his journey, and that's his tragedy, while Lear learns everything, but it's too late. I just wanted to hear your reaction, or could you speak to that, even though you did kind of speak to that before?
Yes, I can speak to that a little. I don't agree with the concept that Lear learns too late.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's right on time.
Okay.
The world in which Lear can be important, can be successful, can be a team player is gone. He would truly become mad if he had to live in the world that exists at the end of King Lear.
Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't want, I'm going to use the term that I shy away from, because I think most of us don't quite understand it. But the best we can do, and I'm borrowing from Bob Marley now, the best we can do at the end of our journey is to be able to sing a redemption song.
Hmm.
And Lear can do that because he has learned so much.
Mm-hmm.
He has learned that he is fallible. He has learned that his youngest daughter loved him not only immensely but authentically. He learned that. Let me go back a little bit. Did you see the images of the King Lear that I did with the Classical Theater of Harlem at the beginning of the? All right.
I did, yeah.
All right. The conceit of the director, Alfred Preiser, was that Lear lived in Babylonia, 1700 BCE, 1,700 years before the Common Era.
Right.
So there was no such thing as monotheism. There was no such thing as God. There were gods for everything. A god of water, a god of a blade of grass, a god of sunrise, a god of sunset, a god of moonrise, that kind of thing. And the god of Babylonia at that time was Marduk. And the king of Babylonia was Hammurabi. Yes, that's the court of Hammurabi. Now, why do I go back to that? Because we borrow our laws of justice, our laws of culture, our laws of caste systems from that court. It came down through all of the crowns of Europe, particularly England, because that's who we are now.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to have that long of a vision in order for us to deal with situations that no one could have imagined would occur. When we can't imagine, we can't manifest. If you can't first imagine it, there's no way you can make it happen.
Right.
Lear can make it happen at the end of his life. He dies with a great liberated imagination. He believes he's going to be with his beloved daughter after death in the land of the shades. Right?
I agree.
Well, you don't have to agree, but I'm saying, do you understand?
Yeah.
You understand where I'm coming from?
I do, yeah.
Right.
I do.
Now, that is not true of death of I'm saying death of a salesman.
Willy Loman. Yeah.
Right.
And it is interesting to me, Andre. Thank you for joining us. First of all,
Are we
Kate, I
done?
really appreciate it. We are. So I wanted to jump in here real quick. We have gone over because you and I were having too much fun and I wasn't watching the time. Now,
And you didn't say shut up, Andre.
and
Okay.
why would I? So I wanted to ask you, Andre, if it was okay for us to take one or two questions from YouTube, or if you need to go, which is totally okay. I've already taken more of your time.
No, take one or two questions because I want to, since we're over time, as you say.
Yes.
Right?
It's our encore.
Yeah. But see, that's another thing. When we invented the clock, we should have put more than 24 hours. Right? At any rate, yes, because I've been inspired during this conversation. And if you would allow me, once we agree that we're done, I want to end my portion of it.
Absolutely.
In a unique way. Okay, let's answer another. Let's
great. Jessica,
deal with another question.
Do we have one or two from YouTube or Facebook? Oh, I see. Actually, we've got. Oh, look at this. Jessica's outdoing herself. She's actually bringing on a guest that you know, Andre. She's bringing on a guest from YouTube, Leo, who has a question for you. So, Leo, if you can turn your video on, you are now on stage.
Hey, Andre.
Leo.
Oh, what a joy to hear this. Just extraordinary. I'll try to be quick because I know your time is limited. I have to just say one thing. I was recently reading about Macbeth and reading Harold Goddard's essay. And at the end of it, he talks about how can there be infernal spirits without there also being celestial spirits. And I think that's resonated in my head when you were talking before. I thought that was just so relevant in a way. My question relating to the speech. The speech seems so pregnant with sexual and procreative imagery. Drench the steeples, drown the cocks, thick rotundity of the world, high engendered, rumble thy belly full, horrible pleasure, crack your cheeks. Almost as if the drowning storm is the female element overwhelming the righteous, upright male element embodied in the standing, raging Lear. I always felt like he's not just defying Mother Nature, but he's almost literally trying to, well, have his way with Mother Nature. He's, in that sort of sense. So I wondered, if you could in any way speak to any of that and how all those images in the 5 minutes we have could, how it informs how you acted actually and where you look for guideposts, etc. I'm done.
You've just done it. Now, in that scene, everything is nature. Or I should say everything is natural. Now, we call it Mother Nature because we call that Father Sky. And we are the issue of the combination of the two, which is why we are sticks, which is why we are vertical. So, yes, there is King Lear standing vertically in luscious, delicious, fertile Mother Nature. Yes, he's trying to impregnate her. He's trying to get something out of her that he can call his own. He wants another issue that will love him completely, endlessly, forever, save him. But he can't, because what he represents is, now remember, we're beyond Hammurabi. We're now in a monotheistic culture. One God, and now Lear represents the breach of the covenant that we were asked to make. Right? The wages of sin is death. Right? All I ask you to do as the creator, here's Eden. It's all yours. Live forever. Be happy. All I ask you to do is do not eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's all you have to do.
Stay
And
in
what is
bliss. Yeah.
right? Follow your bliss. And what is the first thing you do? Eat the damn fruit. Okay.
You're
So,
only human.
guess what? You're not going to be happy. You're not going to live forever. Everything's going to be problematic. You're going to have one problem after the next. So he's cursing God because he doesn't want responsibility. He's cursing nature because he needs someone else to blame. It has filtered all the way down to the 21st century because we don't want to take responsibility for our own actions. We call to the gods. And the gods say, sorry, we're busy. You know,
And we were here first. Yeah.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Now, I think Lear, the play, is drenched in sensuality and sexuality and pregnant with desire and frustration and mistaken love. There's a lot of lust, there's a lot of affection, there's a lot of desire, but there's very little agape. And there are very few people who are loved in the play. Cordelia is loved, Edgar is loved.
And Lear.
Lear is loved. Kent is loved in a way. Maybe there are 5 people who experience love.
Gloucester, I guess, from his son, but it's hard. But yeah, it's very, very few. You're right.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
we're still dealing with that conundrum.
Yeah. Thank you, Leo, for
Thanks,
joining the
Nathan.
fray. And
Thanks, André.
Andre, I would love for you to give yourself your own sign-off.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and the heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. We shall overcome. Good night.
Thank you, Andre. Good night.
you.
Thank you all. I'm your host, Nathan Winkelstein. We end fittingly with the final words of this play. The weight of this sad time we must obey. Speak what we feel, not what we ought to say. The oldest hath borne most. We that are young shall never see so much, nor live so long. Good night.
Thanks for tuning in to the Red Bull Theater Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Your support helps us to bring you more captivating conversations and insights into the world of classic theater. To stay updated on our latest activities, follow us on social media, get on our mailing list, and visit www.redbulltheater.com, where you'll find an abundance of podcasts, readings, classes, seminars, productions, and more. Your support makes all of this possible, so please consider making a tax-deductible donation on our website to help us continue bringing classical theater to contemporary audiences. Until next time, thanks, and ever thanks.